Do you wrestle with the concept of unconditional love and wonder if that's even possible? I'll be back in a moment and we'll take a look at that subject in a little more depth. Hi, I'm Dick Rauscher. Modern philosophers remind us that it's all but impossible to fully understand the words of a person who is teaching at a level of consciousness above that of our own. For example, divide some pennies and nickels into two stacks. In the first stack, put 9 pennies, and then put 3 dimes in the second stack, and then tell a young child that they can have one of the stacks. In almost every case, they will pick the stack with the 9 pennies rather than the stack with only 3 dimes. Now you can tell them that the small pile is worth more, but rarely will they give up their 9 pennies. So no matter how hard you try to explain it to them, they will hang on to their 9 pennies. Why? Because your explanation about the value contained in each stack assumes a level of consciousness that they've not yet achieved. They hear you, but they don't get it. Imagine the frustration of Jesus and Buddha or any of history's other enlightened mystics as they attempted to teach us how to unconditionally love others. The reality of 100 million people killed by other humans in the 20th century is pretty solid proof that we still don't understand. Understand, that is, the deeper concepts needed to offer unconditional love and compassion to others. We don't get it, even after 200, 2,500 years. So what are we missing? Why are we unable to understand what our great spiritual teachers and mystics have been trying to teach us for so many years? Let's take a look at what we maybe have failed to understand. Like those children that refuse to give up their 9 pennies, I believe that most of us are still functioning at a level of human consciousness well below the consciousness of Jesus or Buddha or Muhammad and the rest of history's great spiritual teachers. The wisdom those enlightened minds were attempting to teach us clearly involved more than just love and compassion alone. I believe they were encouraging us to embrace a higher level of consciousness, that of non-dual thinking. The wisdom they were attempting to teach was simple and uncomplicated. When we are able to let go of our dualistic right and wrong, either or egoic thinking, and simply learn to fully embrace a higher level of human consciousness called non-duality or non-dual thinking, only then will it be possible for humans to fully embrace and then manifest the higher spiritual values of unconditional love and compassion. Jesus understood that non-duality was a higher level of consciousness best taught through stories, metaphors, and parables. A growing number of our 21st century biblical scholars now believe that the parables and teaching stories told by Jesus make significantly more spiritual sense when we interpret them as wisdom teaching stories about non-duality and non-dual thinking. Jesus used stories to help us understand that we live in the kingdom of God, but the only way we can experience creation is through the eyes of non-duality. In other words, the wisdom to see the non-dual wholeness of reality, not just the dualistic pieces and parts of reality called good and bad or right and wrong. So let's take a look at non-duality in modern terms. Non-duality is best understood in today's language as the middle path ability to hold contradictory truths that are always present on both sides of an issue, without needing to choose one side over the other. In other words, only non-dual thinking can fully embrace the paradox that the light of truth is always shining on both sides of every issue. When we can hold the tensions that exist in the contradictions present in all issues, while we continue to struggle for clarity regarding the way forward, the gift we receive is the ability to include wisdom and insights that are embedded on both sides of the issue when the path forward finally becomes clear. As Marcus Borg reminds us, to fully understand the wisdom contained in the teachings of Jesus, we have to read his stories and parables in the context of the culture in which they were written. When we fail to include context in our reading, we are in danger of projecting or inserting our own ego beliefs and opinions into those stories. If our goal is to offer the world the unconditional love and compassion that Jesus and all of the world's great spiritual teachers have been trying to teach us, I would add that their words and stories need to be read not only in context, but also through the heart of a more evolved, non-dual level of consciousness. Only then will the deeper wisdom of Jesus' words and the words of our other great spiritual teachers be fully understood. The right and wrong, good and bad, either-or thinking of the egoic mind may have love and compassion as its honest intention, but what will most often emerge from the dualistic mind will be our need to be right. When that happens, our judgmental opinions and rigid beliefs will begin to create conflict and violence in the world. The kind of violence that 100 million people experienced all too personally in the last century. In our metaphor above, the dualistic mind will always choose the lesser value of the 9 pennies and ignore the greater value of the 3 dimes. This is also true for non-dual thinking. Our dualistic mind won't get the importance of non-duality, not because it isn't smart enough, but rather because embracing the values embedded in non-dual thinking requires a higher level of human consciousness. The unconditional love and compassion our world hungers to experience will happen only when humanity has achieved the non-dual level of human consciousness encouraged by our enlightened spiritual teachers. A non-dual consciousness capable of transforming the judgmental dualistic categories of the egoic mind into the unity and wholeness required to manifest a true unconditional love.